Well, for the first time since 1984, Tennessee falls to Kentucky inside Neyland Stadium. It was done from the get-go, Vince, 34-7, that final score. And Vince, it was one of those games to where you just would like to have back. Nothing seemed to go right. Tennessee looked like it was the better team for most points of this ball game, especially in the first half, but continued to trail. But here we are again, costly turnovers once again due to the Volunteers.
Yeah, and the pick sixes were devastating, and Jeremy Pruitt wasn't happy about the effort and trying to bring those guys down. I mean, one of them was from 41 yards out, another one from 85 yards out by a Mike linebacker who ran out of gas.
Yep.
And Tennessee still couldn't get him down. And Jeremy Pruitt certainly wasn't happy about that. You know, another fumble on an exchange between Garantano and Chandler, and then JT Shrout came in relief of Jared Garantano, and he threw a pick on his first pass as well. So if you count the Georgia second half and then the first half in this game, that's 7 turnovers in 4 quarters of football when Tennessee was among the nation's best and not turning the ball over in the first 10 quarters of the season. Yeah, there's other things that went wrong. But that's the root. That took their chances pretty much out of even winning that game.
And on the other side, Kentucky's defense in 5.5 quarters had 9 interceptions between Mississippi State and Tennessee. So props to that secondary for sure. You mentioned there the quarterbacks. Of course, you know, Jared Garantano gets benched. JT Shrout comes in for 1 series, throws that interception, in comes back in Jared Garantano. Fourth quarter, we see Harrison Bailey. A lot can be said about last week with Georgia. With yes, Garantano made mistakes. Absolutely, he did. But there was a bigger picture there. Not a whole lot can be said here after this one. So if you're Jeremy Pruitt, what are you doing at the quarterback position next week?
Well, our Jimmy Himes asked Jeremy Pruitt what he does. Garantano, Bailey, what does he do at quarterback for next week? And he said, well, that's undecided right now. Yeah. And look, during the Butch Jones year, we heard a lot about, well, we'll see in practice. And then practice reps would decide who would play in games for this team. And I know a lot of coaches feel that way, but not everyone, Josh Dobbs, practices as well as they play in games. So this is something the coaching staff has a big decision to make. And look, Harrison Bailey, he had all 49 snaps of that young player scrimmage on Sundays that they're supposedly going to continue. We'll see what happens if they do it again on Sunday. And look, if they feel like he's already made progress, they may go with him because they know they can always come back to Garantano because he's been bounced in and out of lineups already. And we know where the fans stand on this as well. But Bailey had a real nice throw to Weidman along the sideline, but then missed on a couple of throws in the red zone. Didn't have, catastrophic mistake, but look, he just is behind. He's not as prepared as he would have been in a normal year. So that's why there's not the natural decision, an easier decision to put him in the ballgame. It's just about Garantano taking care of the football, which he, in the last 2 games, has not done so.
And remember, too, Harrison Bailey missed spring ball. As did everybody. Was out for the first week and a half to 2 weeks of fall camp and, due to quarantine. So behind the 8 ball, and as Jeremy pointed out, and so did you, just hasn't had a lot of live looks so far this year. So we'll have to see what the status is for this week at practice. Vince, really just, if you're the team overall, how do you bounce back from the last 2 weeks? The Georgia was just a humiliating loss in terms of what happened in the second half running the football. Today, same story in terms of humiliating. Tennessee was able to run the football, which was good, but still an embarrassing loss. So how do you turn the page and try to get back to playing turnover-free football and playing better football that Tennessee did the first 2 weeks of the year?
Well, Cainer, based on Tennessee's next opponent, I don't know how that happens next week. Then you get the bye week, and that may be where you start to get some answers and get guys refocused. Jeremy Pruitt was talking about habits. And he didn't use the excuse of COVID, but that's been a factor with contact tracing. So I think that it may take another tough performance next week before they can reset in the bye week for Arkansas, who's an improved team than they look like on paper going into the season.
There's no easy games here in the SEC this year in 2020, and of course, it's not going to be easy next week when Alabama comes to town. But for the final score here today, for the first time since 1984, Tennessee falls to Kentucky here in Neyland Stadium, 34-7 the final. With Vince Ferrara, I'm Cain here on 99.1 thesportsanimal.com.